Welcome to the Power of Your Voice podcast with your host, Johnny Gyorke. You have the power to overcome challenges and fears. Let my voice and the voice of many others show you how to transform these challenges into opportunities. To learn more about future podcasts and read episode show notes, check out my website at www.thepowerofyourvoice.com.
This is episode 18, and today's topic is life. If I told you that everything that happened to you in your life up until now happened to you for a reason, what would you say? All of us have a story, and today I will share a story that I honestly have never really shared with others. Why? Well, I discovered my voice. I used to believe I never mattered, and now I know that I do, and my life is a gift, and so is yours. What is the meaning of life? Why are we here, and what is our purpose? I can tell you that we are here for a reason, and we have a purpose, because if we did not, we would not be here right now. We did not go through all the struggles in the past just to quit. You matter. You are loved. And regardless of whatever situation you may be going through currently, use each lesson as a learning experience. Surround yourself with positive people who hold you high, and stay away from negative people. Those can include our friends, our family, coworkers, and of course, the online trolls. Here are other stories of my many near-death experiences and a journey of finding my own purpose. I share these stories not as a victim, but as someone who has overcome these obstacles and realized how my life is truly a gift that should be cherished and enjoyed. You probably have similar stories. As a kid, I always loved sleeping with my bedroom window open. It's the mid-1980s, and I'm probably around the age of 7 or 8, and one cool summer night in West Dallas, Wisconsin, there was a lightning storm, and this one particular night, lightning flew through my window, struck me and hit the electrical outlet and started my bed and my dresser on fire. My father, who was working first shift at the time, had his bedroom directly across from mine, and apparently he probably smelled the smoke, and he ran into my bedroom. He pulled me out of the fire, and I woke up the next day on our couch, and I didn't know how I even got there. A couple years later, we had a faulty gas stove in our kitchen, and one year I remember my father, mother, and myself, we all had to run in the street. The fire department, they were called, and they discovered that our stove was actually leaking natural gas into our house. It was said that if either of my parents smoked, our house would have actually blown up, and we would have died. That was very scary because, honestly, one of my best friends who lived across the street from us, his parents, both of them smoked. Now, just imagine if his parents were mine. I wouldn't be here today. Growing up in West Dallas, we did not always have the kindest next-door neighbor. They had a son, his name was Tony, who was always in trouble with the law, and one day he sped into our driveway with his car, and he tried to run me over with it. He was arrested as a police officer who knew him well told my parents that he accidentally drove into the wrong driveway, but they knew this was a lie because Tony, he lived next door to us for over 20 years. And as I was preparing for this episode right now, I just discovered online that he lived a life of being in and out of the court system and was known for driving intoxicated. His life ended young and he passed away, and he was just 44 years old, and he passed away in 2007. When I was 15 years old, a friend of mine, we were riding our BMXs through the city of West Dallas. We were across the street on a sidewalk, and it was in the summer, probably around 9 o'clock at night, and it was dark. I recall a guy running across the street to where I was on the sidewalk. He pointed a gun to my stomach. He kept it there, and he stated that his boys knew me, whatever that even meant, and demanded that I walk across the street with him. So as I was walking across the street, I discovered what he meant by boys as I saw this old Cadillac. It probably was like a Fleetwood, one of those big caddies, and it had probably about 4 to 5 guys in it, and they had guns. I saw the guns, and as the guy went ahead of me, I was just walking towards a car, but I guessed, he must have been probably about 10 feet away from me. And a voice in my head just said, Johnny, throw your bike down in front of you and run like hell. If he chases you, he may trip on that bike. And I ran as fast as I ever did in my entire life, or at least, at 15. And about 50 feet away from me, there was a business. It was right on the right side of me, and it's called Honey Dip Donuts. I ran inside, I called 911, and when the police arrived, we walked outside. They discovered my bike was stolen, and, I was just happy to be alive. The incredible thing is this donut place is still there today, and, I noticed going inside, the bolts are literally still into the wall where that payphone once stood. My father, he died in 1995, about 3 months after I turned 15. And over the past years, I started hanging out with people who parents would never approve of. A friend of mine introduced me to this guy who was kicked out of his parents' house. And honestly, I felt sorry for the guy, and I asked my mother if he could move in. And, just so he could finish high school and work this job he was working at that was locally. It was by a gas station. And at the time, I didn't know, but he was in a very big street gang that is popular in Milwaukee and also in Chicago. Before I knew it, I was caught deep into this culture, hanging out with these gang members, and it happened so fast that I became so deep in my head that, I just didn't know what to do. I hit rock bottom, and this kid, he hid drugs in my bedroom dresser drawer. The police raided our family house. And in the process, my mother's house was completely destroyed, and I was put in the county jail. I did not snitch for the fear of my life, and within 3 days, we were all let go. I didn't get charged for anything. Nothing was mine, but things could have completely gone differently. At the time, I was just happy, that I got out, and within a few months, I just turned 17 years old. Now, the night that we were released, I slept on a concrete floor in my parents' garage in the middle of December. It was below freezing temperatures. Now, we're talking about the state of Wisconsin. It's very, very cold there. That night, it took me probably about 3 to 4 hours to fall asleep. Now, being young and naive, I did not understand that night I could have died of hypothermia. I could barely feel my toes and only had boxes to keep me warm. I felt too ashamed to knock on my mother's or a friend's door at midnight to ask if I could sleep inside. No matter how embarrassed you are, be willing to ask and to accept someone's love and support. Seriously, my young ego and unwillingness to ask for help could have costed me my life. Back in around 2010, when I decided to go back to college and finish my degree, I was driving to Clayton State University one afternoon and was on Interstate 675. The weather, it's beautiful. The roads were clear. While driving, I kept on hearing this noise towards the front of my Honda Accord coupe. She was a beautiful jet black with custom body kit made in Japan. I absolutely love that car. And I noticed while I was driving, as I sped up the noise, it was a lot less. You couldn't hear it. So as I was driving, I was going probably about 75 miles per hour. And as I was approaching the interstate exit, I remember the front of the car started to shake. So I drove off the exit. I headed to this tire shop I knew it's located in Stockbridge, Georgia. And the manager, he came out, he looked at my car, and he put it on a lift. Within 5 minutes, he came back, and he approached me with a shocking look on his face. He literally put his hands out in front with his palms slightly closed, and then he proceeded to open up his hand. The manager told me that when he took off the plastic center of the tires, the little plastic thing that goes on the rims, there was 4 lug nuggets that were spinning around freely inside. And the 5th one just hand turned. It literally fell right off. He looked at me in the face and said, "Someone loves you because you are still here." While I was driving 75 miles per hour, my front wheel could have literally fell off. My car could have flipped off into the road, into the woods. And I'll never, ever forget when that guy showed me those lug nuts. I literally could have died that day. Okay, so let's fast forward 2 more years. So on Friday, April 20th, 2012, I was driving on an interstate after leaving from college for a tutoring session for an accounting class I was taking. And all of a sudden, when I'm on the interstate, a blue PT Cruiser, it lost control in the middle of the expressway, interstate, whatever you want to call it. And it just, it did like a 360. And at least a dozen cars, probably more, they all stopped in the middle of the interstate. And as I was looking in my rearview mirror, I saw this Crown Victoria. It was just speeding really fast, and it completely, spun around and totaled my car. And after this happened, four guys, they came out of the car. The driver, he had these teardrop tattoos on his face, and he asked me if I hit him, and I'm like, calmly, no. Honestly, I didn't know what happened because it happened so quickly, and my adrenaline, it's just kicking in. I'm like, okay, and the police, they all show up, everybody shows up. In a tow truck, they come and they take my car, I hop in the tow truck, and we go to the junkyard. And, what was interesting as, after my car's put in the junkyard, I'm just standing there for a few hours. And eventually these guys, they come back, and the guy asked me, he's like, did you hit me? And I said, no. I smiled, and I didn't say anything else. And one day, out of the curiosity, I searched that guy. I just typed in his name in Google. That exact guy who hit me years ago, he is now in jail for murder. Let me say that again. The guy who hit me, he's in jail for murder. He shot someone who he actually considered to be one of his best friends. They were at some nightclub. And, this guy who murdered him, the guy who hit me, he's only 22 years old. That's young. 22. I could not stop but think, what if I would have yelled at that guy for hitting my car? If I would have, been pissed off, I cursed him out. I insisted that I was right and he was wrong because he hit me. This was a life lesson. No matter what situation we might get into, remain calm. It may save a person's life. It may save your life. A few years later, my wife, her father, and our kids, we were all in a car together. We were in Memphis, Tennessee. We just got off the interstate, and we're waiting for the traffic light. We were waiting for it to turn green so we can make a left turn. And I literally remember this like it was yesterday. My wife is driving. Her father, he's in the passenger seat. And they get into this really good, deep conversation. And the light, it changes green. Yet my wife, they're still having this conversation in the car. She still has her foot on the brake. And I remember within probably around 10 seconds, this gigantic semi-truck, it literally plows right through the red light, probably going at least 55, 65 miles per hour. If my wife would have gone when that light turned green, none of us would be here today. Through this experience and others, I have learned to never, ever, ever go right when that light turns green. Regardless if the light is changing, always look before assuming everyone will stop. I know sometimes we're in our car, the light turns green automatically, and you have somebody who's behind you, they honk the horn within a second. Don't worry about it. Wait. Look left. Look right. Make sure any cars that are coming, they stop at that light. I've worked in physical therapy. This has happened to so many people. As soon as that light turns green, they will step on that gas immediately. And a car that wasn't paying attention, they thought they could make the yellow light. Some of these yellow lights, they're longer than others, and they will fly right through that light. Always make sure you wait a couple seconds before you go when that light turns green. It could literally save the person's life. Now, while I was in college, I bartended for several years, and there were so many nights that I did not get home until probably around 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Anyone who's bartending, they know, this is just how it is. You working late, it takes a long time to close up the restaurant, all that kind of thing. And I lived over an hour away from where I worked. There were nights when the brake lights on people's cars didn't even look like they were lights. I thought I was hallucinating, and I just thought I was seeing things, but I was so tired. There are times when I would literally close my eyes for a few seconds, and it was scary. All it takes is a blink of an eye. For anyone listening to this, don't put yourself in situations like this. It just is not worth it. Yeah, you can drive with music blasting, you can have all the windows down, but just don't put yourself in this kind of situation because it's just, seriously, it's not worth it. This year, not long ago after the Super Bowl in Atlanta, in February, my wife and I, we were invited to this amazing friend's birthday party. My wife's brother, he stayed at our house to watch our children. So, I ordered this pizza, and I was running probably about at least 30 minutes late to go pick it up. When I got to the main busy road, I was in the left lane. There was a tow truck in front of me that was going extremely slow. I thought about hopping in, the right lane, speeding up, and going in front of this guy. But my intuition said not to. I just had this feeling. Plus, I thought, oh well, you're running late. The pizza's cold. You just, when you come back, you put it in the microwave. There's no rush. So I decided to take my time. I stayed behind this tow truck that was probably driving 35 miles in a 45. And as we approached the next intersection, I noticed the tow truck was heading into the turning lane. He was going to turn left. But after a few seconds, he did not. He decided to go straight. He smashed head on to a vehicle that was parked at the red light, which is, across. And I pulled over immediately. I called 911. And I was amazed with myself because I was really able to be calm. This is the first time I've been able to do this because, this is like, emergency. This is a serious situation to be in. And before I knew it, the fire trucks, the EMS, several police cars, they all showed up. I could not stop thinking, though. I was like, had I sped up earlier, I literally would have been in the left lane to turn, and that tow truck would have hit me. He would have plowed right into me. As I looked, I went outside, I looked, I was watching what was happening. The person who was hit, they were laying on the sidewalk. They had 3 EMSs over them, and, they were being put on a stretcher. I could not help but think, but that would have been me. It is incredible when I think about what has happened in my life and how experiences I had in my past can literally flip on the opposite side of the spectrum. You may be able to relate some of this as well. So my oldest son, Julian, who's incredible, he's extremely smart, and one who I completely adore. He's now 9 years old. This story goes back to when he was just a few months old, and at the time I was in college. So one particular day I was typing a paper on my computer. It's the room is located 2 rooms down the hall from our bedroom. So all of a sudden, while I'm typing up on the computer, I hear this slight fainted muffling sound. It scared the living heck out of me. So I shot out of my seat so fast, like a speeding bullet, enter our bedroom. And I saw my son. He was literally pinned down between the bassinet and the bed. So when he woke up from a nap, he somehow managed to roll over onto this pillow that was stuck between the bassinet and the bed, to prevent him from, going between the two. And he was not able to breathe. So I pulled him out, which saved his life. It does not matter who put him on the bed in the first place, why he was in the bassinet. All I could think of was my son and how thankful I am that he's still alive. That day I was home. I did not have any music on, something I usually do when I'm typing. This sort of thing could happen to anyone and reminds me of the day my father saved my own life during a lightning storm in my bedroom. Time goes by, and my beautiful wife and I, we have another son. His name is Gabriel. He too, he's very smart. And unlike our other son, Gabriel, he's very, very cautious, which is, a really good thing. So 3 years ago, we were enjoying a wonderful vacation in Hilton. And if you've never been there, I definitely recommend it. It's a gorgeous place to go. And, while we're there, my older son and I, we were playing at one end of the pool where it's very deep. Now, Gabriel, on the other hand, he was on the other side of the pool. My wife is watching him, and everything is great. Gabriel, he's 4 years old at the time. He's been taking swimming classes, but he's cautious of anything that, when water's near his shoulders. So, I swim to the middle pool. I'm about 15 feet away from Gabriel, and all of a sudden, as I'm looking at him, he takes one step, and the water is above his head. Now, his head is moving back and forth, his arms are thrusting, and I go into this hero mode, and I'm like, oh my god. I swim to him as fast as I can, but I cannot reach to him in time. So I yell, and this angel, this guy, he's literally angel, he's standing right next to Gabe. He's about 5 feet away from him, and he pulls him out of the water. The pool had dropped exactly where Gabriel was. It went from 3 feet to 4 feet. Gabriel was scared. He inhaled some water, but he was safe. These are scary moments no parent should ever have to face. So you see, life is precious. Let people in your life know how much you love and care about them. And stop holding grudges on people. 1 second we are here, the next we can be gone. Everyone's life matters and everyone has a purpose. Johnny here. Thank you for listening to the Power of Your Voice podcast. I'd love to get your feedback on this episode and how it impacted you. If someone in your life could benefit from this episode, share it with them. Check out thepowerofyourvoice.com to read show notes, leave a comment on the blog page, and to stay updated on all future episodes, subscribe to this podcast and leave a 5-star review. Thank you for your love and support.